That's right, folks. If you haven't heard by now, we officially have a Legend of Zelda movie that will go into production and released within the next couple of years. No IGN April Fool's joke here. So what do we know so far about this Legend of Zelda movie? Well, let's talk about it. According to IGN, the Legend of Zelda live-action movie is in active development at Nintendo and Sony Pictures for a March 2027 release. Now, after the publishing of this article, Nintendo would release the very specific date, which would be March 26, 2027, via their new Nintendo Today application. So who's making the Legend of Zelda movie? The film is being produced by Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto and Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions and former founder and CEO of Marvel Studios. Sony Pictures Entertainment will handle theatrical distribution in addition to co-financing the movie with Nintendo. Jurassic World's Derek Connolly is writing the screenplay. Wes Ball, who made the Maze Runner movies and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is directing Zelda, as if he was fated to land the job. Ball actually tweeted about wanting to make a Zelda movie way back in 2010. At the time, Ball said he envisioned his Zelda as being another mocap endeavor like James Cameron's Avatar. More recently, the filmmaker said he wants his Legend of Zelda to be this awesome fantasy adventure movie that isn't like Lord of the Rings, it's its own thing. I've always said I would love to see live action Miyazaki. That wonder and whimsy that he brings to things. I would love to see something like that. In a later interview, Ball backed off his 2010 notion of making it a mocap movie. In May 2024, Ball said making an all mocap Zelda movie probably isn't his choice, since he was just coming off of the CG heavy Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Ball's aim is to make Legend of Zelda feel grounded and real, he added. We're working hard and we're going to make something great. Ball has also said, I want to fulfill people's greatest desires. I know it's important, this franchise, to people, and I want it to be a serious movie. A real movie that can give people an escape. The film has to feel like something real, something serious and cool, but fun and whimsical. A die-hard Zelda fan who said he grew up on the franchise, Ball unintentionally stirred up other fans when he refused to tell IGN last year what his favorite Zelda game was. No one has been cast yet as far as who's starring in the movie. TBD on that. Now, we have another source here. Game Rant says a movie industry insider claimed that the Legend of Zelda film will be the first of a planned trilogy, with 3 movies planned out over 6 years starting in 2027. Additionally, the Legend of Zelda movie will begin shooting in November 2025 in New Zealand, where other high-profile films such as the Lord of the Rings trilogy were developed. Shout out to the YouTuber Uryx channel for the video that is laced with my commentary, Evolution of the Legend of Zelda games. I would consider myself a fairly hardcore Zelda fan. I've played most of the games in the franchise, and I can honestly say Zelda is probably the most consistently great franchise as far as putting out quality content almost every single time in the world of gaming. There's so many things I want to talk about here, and I'm not even sure where to start. First of all, who would have ever thought Nintendo and Sony together in an effort to make a Zelda game? It's beautiful to think about. I was definitely caught off guard when I found out that Sony would be the studio involved with The Legend of Zelda. It took me by surprise. Now, initially, before I found out who would be directing the film, my mind went straight to Peter Jackson, the man that directed the amazing, arguably the greatest trilogy of all time, Lord of the Rings, and another solid trilogy in The Hobbit. But having the guy that did Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, isn't a bad choice either. It was a solid movie. I'm totally on board with the direction of going live action as opposed to full CGI. I know that might dampen a lot of people's expectations of a large video game or Nintendo cinematic universe. We already have the Mario movie. If Zelda was fully CGI, people would start thinking cinematic universe, crossover, Super Smash Bros. Movie. But with it being live action, that likely puts the nail in the coffin for at least a crossover of these two movies. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I was very excited to hear that he plans on taking this movie seriously. That was a concern of mine. The last thing I wanted was for this movie to be overly childish and cater largely to preteens and younger. So I'm excited that we are going to get something serious with serious themes, most likely, and tones. Of course, my mind went straight to Lord of the Rings, thinking of Middle-earth, but Hyrule. I can only imagine how beautiful seeing Hyrule will be in live action. It is a dream come true. Imagine that opening scene in Breath of the Wild when you finally make it out of that cave and everything just opens up as Link runs to the cliff. Think that, but live action. Also, even more excited that it's rumored to be filming in New Zealand, where they filmed Lord of the Rings. I just got back from a trip to New Zealand. It's the most beautiful place I have ever visited, and I'm pretty well traveled. Filming on location in New Zealand is a big thumbs up. A big step in the right direction, if you ask me. And it should still have that whimsical, fantastical feel that Hyrule has always had. As far as the action set pieces, I would love to see some fantastical Link fight choreography. I don't want it to be very grounded like, say, Lord of the Rings, basic sword and shield fighting. I would like to see some lore accurate Link in this live action movie. And if you don't know what I mean by lore accurate Link, take a look at this. Yeah, I want to see some cool shit like that in the Legend of Zelda movie. It doesn't have to be way over the top, but give us some really good action set pieces that we can drool over. So I think a good and a bad thing that comes with making a movie about the Legend of Zelda is how much content and material the director and the writers can pull from when creating this movie. It's a good thing because you have so many games, so many stories, so many themes, so many characters that you can draw from. But it will also make it more challenging having all those options available to you. Are we gonna go young Link? Are we gonna go adult Link? Are we gonna play around with the Ocarina of Time? What about the masks? Are we gonna be up in the clouds like Skyward Sword? Or are we going to be down in the sea like Wind Waker? I doubt they're going to take either one of those approaches, but it's an idea. Having Hyrule flooded over for the first movie of the series isn't going to go over well with the fans, I don't think. Link spending much of his time in a boat sailing to islands. Not a good decision, probably. Is this going to be the first hero that we dive into this adventure with? Or are we already getting a reincarnated Link in a different timeline? What of the Gorons? What of the Dekus? What of the Zoras? What of those Ritos? So many characters. And then we have Ganondorf.
Yeah!
I think it is very important that they do not turn Ganondorf / Ganon into some cliche big bad guy that you just meet at the end of the movie with no depth. Please flesh out Ganondorf. You can make him interesting. You can give him more history. Ganondorf is in fact inherently evil. The Gerudo King generally has always been portrayed as just a evil deity, entity in The Legend of Zelda. But I would be okay with giving this character more story. Why did the Gerudos turn on Ganondorf eventually? What was his rise to power like in the Gerudo army? What were some of his smaller motives inside of this bigger picture? They started dialing into this a little bit in Tears of the Kingdom, but I would have liked to see much more because I found it very interesting how they did that in Tears of the Kingdom. It raised so many more questions, and I wanted to dive deeper into Ganon's story prior to the events taking place in the game. Like I said earlier, it is rumored to be a trilogy. Now, I think there's a few ways you can go about this, and it could be interesting. So for the first movie, is it going to lead up to a climactic fight versus Ganondorf in just the first movie? And then what happens after that? Are we staying in that same timeline and continuing our journey with this Link? Or for the second movie, are we going to follow the story of a different hero, reincarnated? That's an option. I think that could be very interesting. But I think what I would like to see inside this trilogy is staying with our one hero through 3 movies, spanning one long adventure. And I don't think the big battle versus Ganondorf should happen inside the first movie. I think they should wait till the third movie, lead up to this huge battle with Ganondorf at the end. There are plenty of interesting and great bosses in the history of Legend of Zelda that they can pull from, and one of those guys could be the big bad guy for the first and second movie. I'm not saying don't put Ganondorf in the first 2 movies. Of course, you can be building up, learning about him, see what he's doing on his side while we're also following the hero. I think I would prefer that. It would give the final meetup of Link and Ganondorf so much more weight, so much more gravity. Make it heart-pounding. The hairs raising on my back. I think that's how I would like to see this executed. I am very interested in who's going to get casted as Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. This is going to be a huge announcement once they pick their actors and actresses. The day this Legend of Zelda teaser trailer drops, it will break the internet. I promise you that. It's very important that they take this movie seriously and give it weight. We are talking about The Legend of Zelda here. All of the games have carried that same tone, that same energy, for the most part. People get emotionally attached to the stories involved in these Legend of Zelda games, especially in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The stories were executed perfectly. So much emotion with the characters. I remember when that first trailer dropped for Breath of the Wild. It is arguably the greatest video game trailer I've ever seen. It felt like a damn movie. It was pulling at my heartstrings watching it. Tell me that's not epic. I think the Hobbit movie strikes a good balance of serious but yet blissful and cheerful energy at the same time. I thought the Hobbit movie really did a good job, not making it so dark like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but also catering more to a younger audience, because the book was written for children at the end of the day, but it didn't feel like a kid's movie. The Hobbit struck that balance perfectly, and I think The Legend of Zelda could probably shoot for something like that. They're going to have to knock this out the park. There's going to be so much scrutiny involved in this movie. From the outfits, to the Master Sword, to the shield, the hero shield, to what Zelda looks like, the actors with Ganondorf's out, everything is going to be heavily scrutinized. I can already see the internet going crazy because something is off about Link's tunic. And it's going to be interesting to hear Link talk. He's not going to be that silent hero in the movie. Could you imagine if they made the movie and all we get is Link grunts? Yeah. The whole movie, the hero is going to have a voice now. This is going to be awesome. I never want to hear Link talk in a video game, ever. But for the movie, obviously it has to be done. Those are my initial thoughts on all this. You guys sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think of my ideas and what are some of your own. Let me know. But that's all I got to say about it. That's a wrap for today's episode. I appreciate each and every one of you for stepping in, showing your love, showing your support, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Now I could sit here and smack you all around with the generic like, comment, subscribe BS, but nobody gives a damn about that. So do whatever the hell you want to do, because you're going to do it anyway. Now, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead. I am Boo, and I am out.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.